All right. Let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Learn Proper Context. And this pretty much comes from a scripture that I was listening to earlier in the book of Isaiah. And pretty much this is where the saying comes that Yahushua was speaking about in the book of Mark, where it speaks about the unquenchable fire where the worm dieth not. So I kind of want to touch on that because I know that the IUIC and other groups out there, pretty sure, I think the GOCC teaches the same thing about that hell doctrine. And I'm sure you have other Israelite groups out there that know that they're Israelites that teach the same thing. So I kind of want to focus on that. Just waiting to see if, matter of fact, I'll just type it in real quick. Just bear with me 1 second. Let's see. Just want to make sure that the sound is going. I hit it. The way I did it yesterday, and it was working. So, but I just want to make confirm before I just start rolling. Just want to make sure that everything is good. Let's see. I'm just waiting for see the brother GMS Virgin Island Street Gate Shalom, bro. Sounds good, beautiful. Barakatah Yahweh Bashem Shai the water, bro. All right, so pretty much it's learn proper context. And when I heard this, different thoughts started coming to mind, different precepts. So what I did, I just went in and started writing, down some of these precepts. And Lord's will, this will be an edifying lesson. So what I started with was the word context. All right, as you see here, context is circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea, and in terms of which it can be fully understood and assessed. And that's pretty much what it is. It's when you're reading something, there's a particular context that goes along with that reading. And in order for you to understand what is being said, you have to understand the context. It also says the parts of something written or spoken that immediately precede and follow a word or passage and clarify its meaning. All right. Now, the point of the lesson, matter of fact, is here in the book of Isaiah, the 66th chapter, right? And we're going to go to the 22nd verse. 22nd verse. Right. Now, this is after the destruction of America, Babylon the Great. And once the destruction of America, Babylon the Great takes place, what's going to happen is the earth is going to be renewed again. The scriptures speak about new heavens and a new earth. It's speaking about the earth being renewed and replenished. Now, how do we know that it's not going to be a whole entire new earth and that the earth is not going to just blow up and be destroyed and then all of a sudden a new earth starts to form? Well, let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 4. It says, one generation passeth away and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. So this earth, once it was created to be, to be here forever. And it means just that, forever. It's an age, an undying age. Now, when we go to, what was the other one? Spare me 1 second. One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. Oh, Barakateh Bashem Yahushai. Let's go to Psalms. I believe it's Psalms 115 and 16. The heaven, even the heavens, are the Lord's, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. That's where the Lord, dwells at. What is known today or called the fourth dimension. It says, "But the earth hath he given to the children of men." And what was the earth that was given to the children of men about? It was supposed to be inhabited, be fruitful and multiply, so on and so forth. So the earth is supposed to be here, and it will be here forever, continuously, a continuous age. All right, so when we go to Isaiah 66 and 22, "For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me." So in other words, this is another cut too. This is pretty much saying that once this, for lack of better words, new society is established, it will never be destroyed. It's going to always remain before the Most High. So these individuals like, the Elder Lahab and Bishop Nathaniel talking about, that once the 1,000 years is up of Esau's captivity, that, Esau's going to get the upper hand and somehow take the kingdom back and put us back into captivity. That's total nonsense. There's so many scriptures to debunk that it's not even funny. But as the Lord says, that the new heavens and the new earth shall remain, saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, so shall your seed and your name remain. So in other words, we're not going to be taken down anymore. Once Yahushai is established back upon the throne and the nation of Israel is joint heirs with him, meaning the men and the women, they fall in their place, it shall never be destroyed again, It says, "And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai." And that is true. All flesh will come. Eventually, all nations are going to have to learn, the Lord's law, statutes, and commandments. So before we hit the point on the new moon and the Sabbaths, let's go real quick to Psalm 65. Got a couple of precepts here. Psalms chapter 65 and verses 1 and 2. "Praise waiteth for thee, O Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, in Zion, and unto thee shall the vow be performed." And what was that vow? The agreement that we made with Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai of keeping his law, statutes, and commandments. This is why the second covenant, when we are changed, our bodies are changed, our minds are changed, and the law is inserted into our inward parts. That's when the performance of that vow would be done without fault. Okay? "O thou that hearest prayer, unto thee shall all flesh come," because eventually all flesh will come to the Lord and worship before Jerusalem, and will follow the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. There's two precepts, one in Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, and another one is in the book of Micah, the 4th chapter. So Isaiah 2 and 1, "The word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains." And what's the mountain of Yahweh, of Yahweh's house? That's Yahushai's government, which is Yahushai. Then you have the men under him, which you have the 12 disciples, you have the 144,000, which are the ruling class or the government of Israel. You've heard the term, those of you brothers that have been around for a while, you heard the term that the HODC uses called Mashara Yasha'Allah, which pretty much is the government of Israel. Yahushai being the head of that. Of course, the Most High, Yahweh is above all of that, but he's given everything over to Yahushai. So Yahushai is going to be in charge of it all. And then you have the 144,000 under him to make sure that everything is running in the proper order. And what's going to be the guideline? The guideline is going to be the same scriptures that everybody mocks and talks shit about. That's going to be the guideline. That's going to be the structure of the government. It says, "shall be established in the top of the mountains," meaning over all other governments. and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it, because all nations will be taught eventually of the Lord. But the nation that the Lord chose is the nation of Israel, and that's the only nation he gave the law, statutes, and commandments to. So when the kingdom of heaven is established, and once we're perfected, then we can come back and make sure that all the nations, are walking the straight and narrow path. And many people shall go and say, Come ye and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, because they will have to learn. Because we're not going to be teaching each other, because we're all going to be righteous. So our children that come forth of us will be righteous. They will not have to be taught, because they will already have the download within them. So who are we going to be teaching? We're going to be teaching the other nations. So if we were in the new covenant, we would no longer have to teach each other. We would no longer have to make videos and break things down. There would be no more questions from Israelites. And how do you do this? And how do you do that? And what does this mean? And what does that mean? So that shows you that we're not in the new covenant. The only part of the new covenant that was fulfilled was the blood of Yahushua that was shed, because every covenant has to be, those particular covenants had to be cemented by the shedding of blood. And in the case of the second covenant, Yahushua's blood covered that. That's why I said this is my blood in the New Testament, or the new covenant. It says, and we will walk in his paths, for out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among the nations. Yeah, because they have done evil to us. So the Lord's going to get them. And that's why they're going to be in captivity. That's why we're going to rule them with a rod of iron. And we're going to make sure that they walk the straight and narrow path. And if they tend to veer off, we're going to crack them upside the head with that iron scepter. And shall rebuke many people. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. And nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. So once the kingdom is established, there will be no more wars. So that's how you know that those small hats, are not the people of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, because, they, precipitate, for lack of better words, wars. They cause these wars, around the world. There's one individual, I don't know if I forgot his name, but he says, you want to buy when there's blood in the streets. I'm not sure if that was a Rockefeller or a Rothschild that said that. You want to buy when there's blood in the streets. So pretty much they want wars, because wars create money. They bring in money. And these devils are money-hungry devils. All right? It says, O house of Jacob, come ye and let us walk in the light of Yahweh. All right, now, let's go from there to the next precept, which is Zechariah 14, to give you further proof. And then we'll get back to Isaiah. Zechariah 14 and 16. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the king. Right, because they're going to be forced to worship. Just like right now, we're forced to abide by their rules, their legislation. No matter where you go on the planet, whatever nation you go to on the planet, you are forced to abide by the rules of that nation. Otherwise, you will get penalized, whether it's a fine, whether it's jail time, or both. So they're going to be subjected to our laws, statutes, commandments. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. In other words, they will not receive those blessings, and their land will not be fruitful. All right, it says, and if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, when you understand about the Feast of Tabernacles was something that only the Israelites would keep. Let me just get that real quick, and then we can move on. The Feast of Tabernacles was not for everybody, but when the kingdom of heaven is established, the Feast of Tabernacles will be, all of these feasts laws, and different things that we keep, the law of the dietary law, so on and so forth, they will have to keep them. Now, when we go to Leviticus 23, right, and 33, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of the 7th month shall be the feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. Right? Then you had the first day, which was a Sabbath. Then you had 7 days where we would, dwell in booths. And then that 8th day, which is a regular Sabbath, would be a Sabbath. On the first day shall be an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, right? Because the 8th day, which is the regular Sabbath. So it's an 8-day Sabbath, but 7 days you would dwell in booths. And you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work therein. These are the feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, a burnt offering and a meat offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything upon his day. Beside the Sabbaths of the Lord, and besides your gifts, and besides all your vows, and beside all your freewill offerings which you give unto the Lord. I'm just trying to find the main point. Just bear with me. Right, verse 42. You shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelite born shall dwell in booths. So it had nothing to do with the nations. But in the kingdom of heaven, the nations will have to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So back in Zechariah 14:19, this shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, that we dealt with that, let's go back to Isaiah 66:23. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. So now what would happen during the new moons and the Sabbaths? Because the new moon is also a Sabbath. You would have something known as as the readings. They would read in the temple, right? So now let's read on here, and then let's make this point, and then we'll move on. Verse 24, and they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me, for their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. Now this is not, even though this is going to actually happen, when the kingdom of heaven is established, you're not going to have, Jake and the nations looking at, people that are dead with worms, feeding on them and burning. They're like, oh wow, man, that's an abhorring, man. We got to get away from that. No. What this is speaking about is, as we read before, from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another. Now, what would occur on the Sabbaths? Well, during the time of the Sabbaths, you would have a reading, like we mentioned, and that reading would be read. You read from the Torah, and you would read about the different laws. You would give the sense of it. You would break certain things down, explain to the people. It would bring things to their memory. High holy days, like during the time of Josiah, when he made that great those Passovers, because prior to that they weren't keeping the Passovers. That's why he felt bad. So they had to rededicate everything, get rid of all of the idol worship, and then reestablish everything once again. So during the Sabbath service, you would read from the Torah. Luke 4:16, and he came to Nazareth, meaning Yahushai, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. So that's what was going on during the Sabbaths. New moon, no different, because the new moon is the Sabbath, because the new moon is the first day of the month, which is a Sabbath, and that day dictates the rest of the Sabbaths for that month. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah, and when he had opened the book, he found a place where it was written, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. And he closed the book and gave it again to the minister and sat down. And the eyes of all them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, this day is the scripture fulfilled in your ears. All right, so that's the point. And it says, and he began to say unto them, this day is the scripture fulfilled in your ears. So that's the point. So he read out of the scriptures. So when we go back to Isaiah 66 and 23, and it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another and from one Sabbath to another, there's going to be what? The readings of the Torah. Shall all flesh come to worship before me, save Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me. So what does that mean? That means that when you read, when you go back to the Torah, Genesis is a part of the Torah. You have the Genesis 19, you have the calamity, or the judgment, should I say, not calamity, the judgment that came upon Sodom and Gomorrah for being moles. So every time you read that, you have what? You have a remembrance of these things. So what are you in essence doing? You're looking at the actions of these people and the punishment that they received. And that's why it's etched forever, because every time you read that, you are reminded of that incident that took place. This is why the Apostle Peter, right? The Apostle Peter in 2 Peter 2 and 6, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow. So we constantly are reminded of this. So it's etched forever. When the kingdom is established and we read these scriptures, you're going to have to read, right? When you go to the temple. So there's going to be a remembrance made of this every time you read the scriptures, every time you have these Sabbath services. So this is how the worm dieth not and the fire is not quenched. Now, when we deal with the fire not being quenched, this place is going to burn for a long time. But after it's burnt up, and the fire finally goes out and the desert creatures are here, living in this land, inhabiting this land, there's still going to be a mention made of that, because there's going to be a memorial. And that memorial is America will never be inhabited ever again. But it's known that that's the place of the great judgment that the Lord brought upon them, that second death. Just like when we read the scriptures about Sodom and Gomorrah, about the flood, we're reminded of those things that happened back then. That's why it will never die. Okay? Just bear with me 1 second. It says, making them an ensample or an example unto those that after shall live ungodly, and deliver just lot vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. For that righteous man dwelling among them, and seeing and hearing, vexes righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. All right. It says, the Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptation, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. And that day of judgment to be punished is coming by way of thermonuclear destruction and the lasers from the chariots. And that fire is not going to be able to be put out by any water or any other substance. You don't have fire trucks big enough, or nothing. You just gotta wait till it burns out. And we don't know how many years it's going to take, how many decades, or if it's going to burn for 100 years or 200 years. We don't know. When the kingdom of heaven is established, we'll know. All right, because we prophesy in part, for we know in part. So going back to Isaiah 66, when you get the context, and they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me, meaning when you read in the law on the Sabbath days, this is going to be a reminder constantly. For their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorrent unto all flesh. Why? Because nobody's going to want that judgment. And that's why the Lord is going to allow America in that destitute state to remain that way, as a reminder to the world what it is to be wicked and what the punishment is for that. All right. And this is what Yahushua quoted from when he made this statement in the book of Mark, the 9th chapter. And that's why it goes back to context. All right. Now, before we read that, let's go to the word quench. because we read that here. Well, actually, we didn't see the, well, yeah, right there, quenched. Let's look up this word quenched here. Let's see what it says in the Hebrew. I mean, they go off, but let me see. The word quenched is the word kabah. To quench, put out, be quenched, be extinguished. Right, that's another word, extinguished. So when you extinguish something, there has to be somebody physically there to extinguish it. You see? And when there's a fire, if you have something's burning on your stove or something, is burning somewhere for whatever reason, and you grab a fire extinguisher, or you grab a towel, or you grab some flour, and toss it on the, to turn off or to quench that fire. Like if you have a grease fire, the instinct of the average person is to throw water on it, and that's the worst thing you could do because water makes it worse. So what you will do is, if you don't have a fire extinguisher, you'll get some flour, if you have flour, and throw it on there, and that will smother, the fire, right? So when this place goes up in flames, there's not going to be any fire extinguisher or flour or anything to cut everything or to stop or extinguish these flames. So they're going to have to burn off on their own. All right, to be quenched, be extinguished, to quench, extinguish, and that's it. See, put out, go out or put out. So this fire that's gonna burn America is gonna have to go out on its own. All right. Now, when we look up the word quench, the word is from the Middle English quenchum, to extinguish, put out, and that's what the word extinguish means. X is out. And let me see, where's the other one? Let's see, put out, heat, light, fire, also of desire, hunger, thirst. Right, so that's to extinguish. Also figurative, to bring to naught, eliminate, render ineffectual. Right, and that's another thing. You're not going to be able to stop the words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai from being accomplished. Let's see, akwenken, to quench, a fire, light. Let's see, source of English, to go out, be extinguished. To cool or extinguish by means of cold water. To drench in water. So you get the idea. Now the word extinguish, right? Oh, it's right there. It's to put out. Let me get rid of this. It's extinguish is to put out, stifle. From Latin, extinguere, quench, put out what is burning. See? So you're not going to be able to put out what is burning. Why? Because you're not going to have anything big enough to wipe or put that fire out. Wipe out, obliterate, from X out, and stinguere, quench. So out, quench, or quench out, or put out. Apparently an evolved sense of pi, to prick, stick, pierce. All right, so that's it, to extinguish. So going back to Mark, right, this is what Yahushua was quoting from when he made this statement. And what it was pretty much a warning. That's why it says here, dire warnings of future judgment for those that offend the men of the Lord, that offend first and foremost Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, that offend the men of the Lord. Their punishment is going to be destruction. It's not talking about a place where you go burn forever. That is a old wives' fable. That is a RCC, doctrine. Those of you that don't know what RCC means, that's an acronym for Roman Catholic Church. So St. Mark 9:38. And John answered him, saying, Master, we saw one casting out devils in thy name, and he followed not us, and we forbade him, because he followed not us. But Yahushua said, Forbid him not, for there is no man which shall do a miracle in my name that can lightly speak evil of me. For he that is not against us is on our part. Right, and for the most part, if a brother's teaching in the names of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, then we're not supposed to forbid them. But the only thing is they have to teach the proper doctrine, the proper, truth. They can't just, take pieces and bits, which you have a lot of individuals doing, taking pieces and bits from different groups and then making a hodgepodge, of this Israelite thing, and then teaching what they feel that should be taught. Well, I like what this group says as far as this particular topic is concerned, but I don't like these other things that they teach, so I'm going to discard that, and I'm going to add to it what this other group says, because what they're saying makes more sense to me. And then I'm going to take this other thing that this other group says and put that together, and then here, before you know it, he got a whole hodgepodge of confusion mixed in with the truth. And as we know, there are no liars of the truth, and the Most High is not the author of confusion. That brings forth confusion. So if you're going to teach, you have to be careful on how you build upon another man's foundation, because you didn't, come up with this on your own. You stumbled across a YouTube video of the Israelites. It made sense to you, and then you went and started to get involved in it, but then you didn't come through the straight gate. You did your own thing. You put together whatever you wanted to put together, and you went out there to teach because you didn't want to come up under the order of anything, as the right way is, to be in subjection under the elders that'll guide you, because you wanted to do your own thing. And you know what the scriptures say about a child left to himself, they become willful. All right. So reading on, it says, "For whosoever shall give you a cup of water to drink in my name, because you belong to Yahushua, verily I say unto you, he shall not lose his reward." It says, "But then on the other hand, and whosoever shall offend one of these little ones that believe in me, it is better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he were cast into the sea." Because when you offend the little ones of Yahushua, you offend Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. "And if thy hand offend thee, cut it off." See? So in other words, if you have a brother or brothers that are in the faith with you, and you love those brothers, but they're going off and you try to correct them and they don't receive the correction, you got to cut them off, because if you don't, what's going to happen is them demons are going to jump on you, and then you're going to be right there, right along with them in that madness, and you will be destroyed. If you have a woman, and your woman, is, giving you hell about teaching the word, and she just becoming so overbearing that you can't focus on the word, and it's affecting your spiritual growth, then you have to make the conscious, decision to cut that bitch off, and to, be able to secure your spiritual well-being. If you have children, and the same thing with them, they're affecting, your ability to teach the word, or whatever the case may be, you may have to cut them off also, or you have to cut them off, Now, if it's just, because we know we have to work, we have to take care of our children, of course, so if it's a thing of, you just press for time or whatever, you just make do with however the Lord, provides. But if they are affecting your spiritual growth, you got to cut everybody off, whether it's your mother, your father, your aunt, your grandmother, whoever. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is your spiritual growth is going to be harmed, and eventually you're going to fall off and you're going to be destroyed. That's why Yahweh said, "He that hateth not father or mother or daughter or son or on down the line is not worthy of me." You have to bear your cross. And that's what we tell a lot of brothers out there, and the few sisters that watch it. A lot of you don't know what you're involved in, because you haven't counted the cost. You never went through anything. So when afflictions or trials start coming your way, and you start losing loved ones, you get offended, because you really don't understand what this is about. You think this is just a place you can go and learn the scriptures and that's it. No, this is something you apply to your life every day. You're an Israelite, from can't see in the morning to can't see at night. You're an Israelite when you're awake. You're an Israelite when you sleep. You're an Israelite when you eat. You're an Israelite when you're taking a shower, when you're taking a shit. Whatever the case may be, you're still an Israelite constantly. This is not a part-time thing. This is not, like you go to a job and then, you have your 8 hours or 10 hours, 12 hours. And then once you finish with your job, that's it until the next day or the next couple of days. This is something that's supposed to be embedded in you always, at all times. All right. So if there's anything that's hindering that, it could be a job. You have to cut that off. So it says, and if thy hand offend thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter into life maimed, meaning not having your woman or your children or a best friend or whatever the case may be, than having two hands or being with them to go into what? Hell. Into the fire that never shall be quenched. And this is where the IUIC airs. Because when you go to this word hell, into hell, you come down here to the Greek. The Koine Greek, by the way. Right? Hell. You got the word Gehenna, which goes back to the Hebrew origin Gaya or Gaya Hanam, which is the valley of Hinnom. Which the valley of Hinnom is not hell. The valley of Hinnom happens to be what they call Gehenna, which happens to be an actual place, I believe it was south of Jerusalem, where they would burn the garbage, where Jake would burn their children, in the fire to Molech. It was also said that criminals were burnt there. So that was a place of what? Judgment. Had nothing to do with a place where you go and burn forever. It's speaking about the future judgment that's coming, that the Lord said will be brought by fire. What the scriptures call the lake of fire. That's what Gehenna is. And this is what Yahushua was speaking about. And that particular fire in Gehenna, when you burn something, you can put it out if it gets too crazy. But this particular fire that's coming, which is a nuclear fire and the lasers from the chariots, that's not going to be able to be put out. And you got to remember that America, Babylon the Great, is a big, vast land. We just drove from Indianapolis to Connecticut. It took us about it was usually it's about 12 hours or so, 12 and a half hours, but it takes us longer because you have to make stops, get gas, use the bathroom, and then, grab something to eat from a decent place, which is hard to do, So you got to remember that all of this land is going to be burnt up. And there's a lot of stuff here, natural gases and just stuff that's going to add fuel to the fire. These different trees and everything that you see is going to be burning for a long time. So that's what Yahushua was speaking about, the unquenchable fire. And then when the kingdom of heaven is established and the Sabbaths come and the readings of the Torah and the scriptures come, these things are going to be in remembrance constantly, always. So it's not going to be quenched. This is why Job said, let's see something. Matter of fact, let me leave that just in case. This is Job. Right here, Job 19 and 23. Oh, that my words were not written. See? So if something is written, it's a record. And a record, you could always bring it back and read it. When you go during the time of Cyrus gave a decree because the Lord put her in his spirit to give a letter, write a letter, or give an order or law that we were able to rebuild the temple back then. Then what happened was the nations came to another king and told him that, no, this is what happens if you let these people have their own ways and keep their own laws and become rebellious. They don't want to pay tribute, so on and so forth. So they stopped the building. But then what happened was inquiry was made into the records that were written, and they found where Cyrus gave the decree. So when Darius read that, or was read to him, he said, no, let's resume this thing. It was already decreed. Let's resume it. Why? Because it was written in the record. So that's what it means, it shall be forever. Right now, we're reading things in the Old Testament and the New Testament that were written long ago, and we're still able to recall that and speak about it. So it's like reliving that moment over and over again, so it will never be done away with. So it says, oh, that my words were now written, oh, that they were printed in a book, that they were graven with an iron pen and lead in the rock for what? Forever. generation to generation. All right. So pretty much that's, what it means for this place to burn forever. Now, the part about the unquenchable fire is talking about that it's going to take a long time for this place to burn out. So when we go back to Mark, Yahushua was speaking about Gehenna. Now, let me see something. Let me see Hanam. Let me see if this comes up. Right. Hanam is Hanam. It says lamentation, which is fitting. And that's why it says it's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth. It says a valley, deep and narrow ravine with steep, rocky sides located southwest of Jerusalem, separating Mount Zion to the north from the hill of the evil council and the sloping rocky plateau of the plain of Rephaim to the south. Let's see. They don't really give you much else. Let's type in. Let's see what comes up if we type in. Come on, dog. Stop playing. So we typed in what was the valley of Hinnom. See what comes up. Gehenna, see? Let's see. The valley of Hinnom, Gehenna or Gehenna, is a historic valley surrounding Jerusalem from the west and southwest that has acquired various theological connotations, including a place of divine punishment in Jewish eschatology, which is the study of the end. The valley surrounds the old city of Jerusalem and the adjacent Mount Zion from the west and south. It meets and merges with the Kidron Valley, the other principal valley around the old city, near the Pool of Siloam, which lies to the southeastern corner of ancient Jerusalem. It is also known as Wadi El Rababi. The northwestern part of the valley is now urban park. Let's see. The place is first mentioned in the Hebrew Bible as part of the border between the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, Joshua 15:8. During the late First Temple period, it was the site of the Tophet, so right there, Tophet. In the Hebrew Bible, Tophet is a location in Jerusalem in the valley of Hinnom, Gehenna, where worshippers engage in a ritual involving passing the child through the fire. Most likely child sacrifice. Not most likely, it was child sacrifice. Traditionally, the sacrifices have been ascribed to a god named Molech. All right? And pretty much that's what they were doing. And how were they sacrificing them? Through fire. Then you also had garbage that was burnt there. You also had, there's some accounts that say that criminals were burnt there. So Yahushua was using that place, the Valley of Slaughter, another name that was given to it, as a future judgment of those that disobey Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right, and disobeyed his word. Where some of the kings of Judah had sacrificed their children by fire. And it gives you the actual scripture, which brings you back to Jeremiah. Thereafter, it was cursed by the biblical prophet Jeremiah, right? In later rabbinic literature, Gehenna became associated with divine punishment in Jewish apocalypticism as the destination of the wicked for the atonement of their sins, which pretty much is going to be destruction. The term is different from the more natural term Sheol. It is because the word Sheol or Sha'awal, which is synonymous with Hades, just simply means the grave. It doesn't mean anything else. It just means the grave. And the abode of the dead. Because that's where bodies, the soul shall the dust return to the earth and the spirit return to the Father which gave it. The King James Version of the Bible translates both with the Anglo-Saxon word hell. Etymology. The Hebrew Bible refers to the valley as the valley of the son of Hinnom. And then when you look at the word Gaya'ah, Ban Hanam, Gaya'ah Hanam, that's where you get Gehenna in the Greek. Hebrew, Mishnah, Hebrew, the name Gehenna, ancient Greek Gehenna, derives from the Koine Greek transliteration from the New Testament. Geography, archaeology, the concept of Gehenna. Manasseh did refer the book of Isaiah, rain, pure Targums, rabbinic. Just trying to get what is the value of Hinnom in the Bible? Let's see. Jewish texts. When you read the Ben Yehudi, right? Matter of fact, I believe I have the Ben Yehudi. Just bear with me 1 second. Yep, Ben Yehudi. All right. The Ben Yehudi, right? We go to Gehenna. Let's bring this, make this bigger. Okay. Oh no, that's the Ben Yehudi, not the Ben Yehudi. I'm looking for something else. Matter of fact, let's see if we could find something here. Okay. Nah, of course it's not gonna. Oh, right there, Gehenna. But they don't. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary. Boom. Come on, baby. Yeah, it's not coming up. Yeah, it's not coming up. But when you look at that, matter of fact, let me look at the book. Yeah, it's not popping up. So when you go to the Ben Yehudi and you look up the word Gehenna, just bear with me 1 second, right? It gives you the whole, rundown of what Gehenna is and what was taking place there. Let's see. It says Jeremiah prophesies a great slaughter of the people there, and in the siege of Jerusalem. After the Old Testament period, Jewish apocalyptic writers began to call the valley of Hinnom the entrance to hell. It says later hell itself. All right, so it had nothing to do with a place you burn forever. It was just, old wives' fables or fables in general that were used to scare the people. And when you understand the history of hell, this is why in the movie Robin Hood, the cardinal, which is played by F. Murray Abrams, when the guy that played Robin Hood came to him, he mentioned the word fear. And he quickly said, fear, the greatest arsenal in God's weapon. That's why the church created hell. Because that is a great motivator. Fear is a great motivator. And that's why the Roman Catholic Church used that as hell. As a place where you burn forever to scare the people to give up everything. Give up their homes, give up their land, the cattle, money, and so on and so forth. If you give this amount of money, then you'll secure your position in heaven, And it's all bullshit. It's all fables. But when you understand this, then you understand the proper context of the word hell and the unquenchable fire. All right, so going back to Mark, right, where the fire shall never be quenched. You look up the word quenched. You heard the word asbestos. See, you get the asbestos suits, fire retardant suits. right? It says unquenchable. Then they go off with this bullshit of eternal hellfire to punish the damned. And we just read that this is talking about Gehenna. Gehenna was not a place where you burn forever. It was, Yahushua used that as the future destruction that's coming for those that disobey Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And matter of fact, I'm not sure if it says it in here. Back in the Zondervins. Let's see. It says Gehenna 11 times. It is on the lips of Yahushai as the final punishment for calling one's brother a fool, for adultery, so pretty much Yahushua use it as a fit symbol for the destruction that's coming. And that's what that means, the unquenchable fire. Because the valley of Gehenna is still there. How come, there's not a fire still going? It says, where the worm dieth not and the fire is not quenched. And the reason why the worm is not going to die is because you're going to be able to read about it constantly. So every time we read about Sodom and Gomorrah, we read about the flood, guess what? It's being relived. So it's never dying. It's continuous. And if thy foot offend thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter halt into life than having 2 feet to be cast into hell, meaning Gehenna, and to the fire that never shall be quenched, right? Because you're not going to be able to quench it. It's going to have to go out on its own, where the worm dieth not and the fire is not quenched. And if thy eye offend thee, pluck it out. It is better for thee to enter into the kingdom of the Most High with 1 eye than having 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire, where the worm dieth not and the fire is not quenched. So you understand what that means. 2 Thessalonians 1:16, it is a righteous thing with the Most High to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. And to you who are troubled, rest with us, right? So anyone that troubles us, the Lord is going to give them trouble. When the Lord Yahushai shall be revealed from heaven with his mighty angels in flaming fire, taking vengeance of them that know not the Most High and that obey not the gospel of our Lord Yahushai HaMashiach. And that's what's coming. That's the destruction. And that's why he spoke about Gehenna or hell. Because that was the fit symbol for the future. Who shall be punished with everlasting destruction from the presence of the Lord. Right? Because once your body is destroyed, it doesn't come back. Your spirit goes back to the Father. And guess what? Then you come back as a newborn. And when the kingdom of heaven is established, which the elect are going to be the only ones that's going to be delivered in this time, the rest of the children that come out of them would be the ones that are destroyed on this side. And from the glory of his power, when he shall come to be glorified in his saints and to be admired in all them that believe, because our testimony among you was believed in that day. All right. What else we have? There was something. Was that Isaiah 66? Let me see something. There was something I was reading. I don't know where this came from. Is that in Mark? Okay, I could probably make a separate video for that. There was something I was reading early that brought me to some other precepts, but Lord's will, I'll use that for a separate lesson. I'll just go back. Oh, it was in Mark. Okay. You know what? I'll probably use that for a separate lesson, Lord's will. Okay, so with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say shalom. And just remember that you have to have the proper context in order to understand the scriptures. All right. So Lord's will, this explained, what it means by the unquenchable fire and the worm that dieth not. Shalom.